everyone, and welcome to one more episode of What If You Live to Be 100. In a previous episode, I have spoken about an interesting topic of money. Money plays a very important role at this age. One is the concern that do I have enough? But beyond that, what what does the word money mean to me? What is the meaning of money, right? And to everyone, it may have a different meaning at this age. For some, it may be just about peace of mind. And for others, it may be about freedom, dignity, and even the opportunity to give back in a meaningful way. So today, we're going to deep dive into this subject of money. And for that, I have the absolute perfect guest on the show in Girish Ajgaonkar.
Thank you.
So Girish is the Chief Operating Officer of Happiness Factory. Interesting name, isn't it? And we're going to talk about the name in just a bit. But we are also doing this episode in the beautiful new office of Happiness Factory. It's an office which is themed around a coffee shop. And we'll show you a few glimpses of the same as well. Happiness Factory is a wealth tech firm focused on helping people, balance money with the kind of life they really want to live. Align their goals towards meaningful aspirations and dreams. And Girish in particular has helped hundreds of families find the balance in life, become financially independent while balancing today's life as well as tomorrow's security. And particularly, Girish focuses on the emotional and behavioral side of money, the kind which helps people get dignity, freedom, and peace of mind. So, welcome to the show, Girish.
Thank you.
Thank you for sparing the time today.
Of course.
So, at the outset, I want to take up this subject of the name Happiness Factory. It's a very interesting name.
Yeah.
And would you like to tell us a little bit about Happiness Factory and also the happy rich philosophy that we have?
Certainly. First of all, thank you for this opportunity, Sanjay. I really appreciate it. And you actually captured the essence of Happiness Factory really nicely. I'll add a few more things to it. As Sanjay said, we are all about helping people live the lifestyle that they've envisioned for themselves and their loved ones, right? Finally, we feel like the use of money is that people can, using the money the right way, people can achieve their dreams, their goals, and so on. So everything that you see in Happiness Factory, be it in this office or our website or any other content, you'll always see us talking about goals. You will never see us talking about products or returns, right? Because we feel like in the larger context of things, products, returns and all, everything is secondary, right? The first is, let us first help the client understand his or her goals, and then let's create a path to achieve those goals using the right products. Right. So that's exactly what we do. We are a goal-based investing platform. We have about 12,000 odd clients who are planning their goals through us as we speak. And goals can be anything. It can be making sure that you're ready for your retirement so that you can live the retired life on your terms. It can be about funding your child's education, right? It can be about buying your new home. So goal can be anything. How do you make sure that you understand how much money you need to achieve those goals and creating the path to that? We also have a pan-India presence. So we've got about 40 odd partners who are on our platform who use our philosophy, our conversation, our platform to sort of have the same conversation with their clients. Coming back to happy rich philosophy, the idea behind is that when you connect money with purpose, right? One can be that you're in a blind pursuit of money. So you creating wealth for the heck of it. That's a blind pursuit of money. But when you connect the purpose as to why you're earning money, why you're accumulating that wealth to achieve your goals. So money and purpose, they get connected. That's when we believe that you are happy. You're not just rich, you're happy and rich. Right. That's a little bit of a
absolutely very, very interesting. So while to be candid, which I'm always on this show, It might have sounded like a commercial of Happiness Factory, but I think it's important to understand, because this show itself, the What If You Live to Be 100, is about finding that balance. We've come to a stage in life today that just a certain number in our bank account doesn't make any difference, right? It's about living the right life. And indeed, what Girish just mentioned is what we all aspire for. So thank you for that introduction. Coming back to the show, right? As you know, this is what we call as What If You Live to Be 100. And it is aimed, or rather is addressed to people in their 50s and early 60s. And we're talking of a point of time in life where a lot of times we have maybe reached a point where we are on the financial side sorted potentially till the age of 80, 85, because that's what we always thought, that 80, 85 is a good kind of number, age number, where we should plan for our money, our wealth, etc. And suddenly we discover there's this whole idea of longevity.
Yeah.
Already in 2025, we see people living up to 85, 90. And if we are in the region of 55, 60, another 25, 30 years ahead, when we get to 85, there's every chance that people are living much longer at 200, etc. In that case, if at this stage we discover that 80, 85 may be too soon, we need to plan for longer. Yeah. What can we still do? And what is the adjustment that may be possible?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I'm so glad, Sanjay, that you are actually having a discussion on this topic. What if I live to be 100? I really like that. People understand intellectually what longevity means, right? Everyone knows that we're living longer. What does that truly mean, and what are the implications of that to you as an individual? People are not able to sort of conceptualize that. Right. Even in the US, which is sort of a far more developed market as far as the wealth and the money aspects are concerned, that discourse is not yet happening. I mean, there are some universities like Stanford, MIT, which have their something called longevity labs. Right. So that's where they're just doing all of that research. So that discussion that you started is an extremely important discussion. You are right. I think some of the biggest mistakes that people make, first of all, is to not go into this lifespan with appropriate amount of planning. And I'm not just talking about finance, but even the non-financial aspects that you've been talking about. Yes. For example, how do I live a meaningful life? Yes. Right? What is the purpose now that I'm not working anymore? Right. So all of those things need to happen. In terms of sort of finance, the biggest mistake that I've seen people make is that they underestimate the power of inflation and what inflation can do to them, right? And see, we have a lot, as human beings, we have a lot of heuristic biases. One of them is something called present bias. So for example, it's easier for us to say that, hey, I want to buy this car a year from now. And it's relatively easier for us to estimate the price of that car a year from now. Correct. When we're talking about 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years, now we're talking about 30 years lifespan. Right. People just can't wrap their brains around it, right? So number one, first thing is that understand the implications of it, get clarity, create certain scenarios as to what if you live to 100, what will your finances be? Will you run out of your money? Or will your money run out of you, right? So I do that analysis, first of all, get the clarity, and then think about sort of what do I have to do? If I am like 50 right now, I've got maybe another 10 years of my life where I'm going to be actively earning. What should my portfolio look like from a financial standpoint, right? Is it oriented towards growth plus capital preservation? Now that, let's say I'm retiring, I'm 60, now my income is going to go away. Another mistake that people make is that suddenly they jump from this growth to complete capital preservation. Right. That's not how it works, because again, you're actually not taking care of inflation. Correct. So how do you design that portfolio that will last for, let's say, till 100? Is something, it's a art and science.
Right. So there are still, I mean, even if somebody is 55, 60, there are ways in which if they have not got it right, there's still a way to fix things and correct, and there is enough time to get it right.
Absolutely. I think it's the clarity that is important. Once you have the clarity, I think the implementation becomes easier.
Girish, I have met and talked to a lot of people in this age group, and I know for sure when I talk to the person that actually they have enough money because I know them intimately. But it doesn't matter how much money they have. Somehow there is this anxiety which people keep having that, like you rightly mentioned, that what if I outlive my money, right? And that anxiety, according to me, comes out of two factors. One is that you don't know how long you're going to live, whether it's 90, 100 or more, you don't know that. So you don't know how much money should I have. That's one.
Correct.
And the second is what we don't know is the variables of life going forward. And one is, of course, inflation, which is a larger factor, but other could be very personal in terms of some health issues which suddenly crop up and suck up a lot of money which you had not planned for.
Yeah.
So these are the variables now. So health, for example, is a critical area. How healthy you are, what you can do, how is it connected to your financial planning?
Yeah.
And how do you factor that into your sort of framework, if I may call it?
Yeah, absolutely. The health is one of the most important aspects of not just a financial plan, but even your life, right? Without this body, there is no life and no financial plan. So you're spot on, Sanjay. And if you look at, I came across a Fidelity study in the US that said that a couple who's retiring at the age of 60 in the US right now will need to set aside about close to $400,000 for health related aspects. Right?
Wow.
That's more than 3 crores, 3 plus crores over here. That's one aspect of it. Second aspect is people, which I've seen underestimate, is the aspect of long-term care, right? We are living in smaller families. Yes. Our children, for the most part, are somewhere else. We have to take care of ourselves. Right. And long-term care is a drain on finances. Yes. So you're spot on. Health also needs to be a part of this plan that I'm talking about. Right. The portfolio restructuring that I'm talking about. And, I've noticed one thing when you made an interesting point about the anxiety. And you're right. Just because you've had a lot of money doesn't mean that you're going to be peaceful about that money. And I've seen that money actually invokes certain emotions, right? And every time when we dig deeper into it, I've seen that it all goes back to some of the experiences that they have had in their life until that point with money. Correct. And that sort of drives their reaction to how things are. On one level, of course, you need to have the clarity. When you say that you may not have the money, if you plan for it till 90, at least at this point in time, you will have a picture. Now, it's not a static picture. It's not like you do it once and then forget about it. True. Every year you revisit it, right? You're talking about some of the variables. What is changing? What is not changing? Do I need to account for more money over here? What are some of the expenses in the near term that I need to take care of? Right. So that constant dialogue is hopefully can get rid of some of that anxiety.
True. I pick on one of the words which you use right now, which is getting peace of mind. That, it may not be easy to get peace of mind because of the constant changes. But then again, when I introduced you, I mentioned that you are somebody who helps families find that peace of mind. So how do you find, is there a formula of sorts that, what does one need to do? Because at this age, finally, after having worked hard all my life and having, taken all the struggles, what I really want is peace of mind. Yeah. And if you're telling me that now also I can't get peace of mind, then when will I get it? Right?
Yeah. I'll answer that question in two parts. First of all, what does money mean to you, right? Can money lead to that peace of mind? And so everyone will have to think about what their peace, the money peace, what is that sort of thing? Now, if I put myself in their shoes for me, financial peace means that I have full control over my time, right? I have the freedom and flexibility to spend my time on whatever I want. Right. That's the definition of peace and freedom to me. Right. So everyone will have to, first of all, find that out as to what their peace mean. Yeah. And then, of course, as I was saying, get clarity, put the plan together, have reviews. But, and I'm going to sort of digress over here, Sanjay, that I have realized one thing. So I am a spiritual person, and I've been doing breathing meditation through the Art of Living Foundation for the last 15 odd years. And I teach some of these techniques called happiness program and so Samadhi meditation.
Wow.
And what I have realized that money and finance is one aspect of it. But now that I've done these techniques over the last 15 years, it sort of has created an abundance mindset in me. It has automatically happened.
Right.
And that mindset actually makes you feel grateful for what you have.
Absolutely.
And the combination of the mindset and, of course, the financial planning, at least that's the solution for me.
Super.
Different people will have different ways of getting there.
No, that's an amazing one. I think so much is to do with your own mind. I mean, you could have all the money in the world that you ever need and still be anxious. And sometimes, you find peace with what you have because, you feel like, okay, I am sorted. My life is so simple. It's like that. So it's so personal, these factors, right? But
I'll just add one thing, Sanjay, to it. And we all have these examples, right? We've seen people with 10 crore, 100 crores, but they're still anxious about losing their money.
Exactly.
So that anxiety is there.
Right.
But I look at my parents, they barely have a portfolio of less than 2 crores. They work their whole life in banks, but they're content.
Yeah. Exactly.
They're content with what they have.
Exactly.
The desires are less, needs are less. So it is a very relative thing.
And it's all about the mind and how comfortable you can get. But I also pick on another point that you mentioned about people, having had experiences which kind of, based on which they have certain thoughts, certain assumptions, or like certain feelings about how money has to be treated, etc. And I know of, I know many cases, but a specific one, for example, who is doing very well in life from his profession. But long back, when maybe he was in college, his father lost a lot of money in the stock market. Now that's left such a scar that this friend of mine has zero exposure to equity. And I worry about it, right? That today, if you do not have exposure to equity and this inflation rate, which we are talking about, how else can you kind of cope up with, keeping your wealth up and running and growing? So how do you address somebody like this? Or, how do you make people feel that, look, that was a past, rejig. I mean, and there's a secure and safe way to also look at equity and all that,
No, it is difficult. And I was actually reading Morgan Housel's, the latest book that he's written on spending. And he was talking about this behavior and how it originates from this. But it's not an easy thing to solve for, right? Because you can intellectually try to tell that person that, hey, look, your experiences were from the past. Maybe there were some mistakes that were made, but there is a better way of doing things.
Exactly.
But intellectually, someone will understand. But can that translate into the experiential learning? It's difficult. The only thing that I can think about is that take baby steps, right? No one's telling you that put 100% of your money in equity. Do the planning. Maybe start with 10%, 15%, see how it goes.
Correct.
And over time, I think build that confidence.
Absolutely.
Because without action, they're never going to get that confidence.
Absolutely. And at a personal level, so my belief is that wealth building today, I think equity is the way. I mean, if you look at the richest people in the world, their fortunes are a consequence of the equity they have. Typically in their own businesses, of course, whether it's a Jeff Bezos or Zuckerberg or whoever you call it. But even at individual level, I mean, I think how much can debt products, enable us to grow? So and India being where it is today with actually very, very positive trends, the biggest opportunity is to actually, ride the equity boom. Of course, doing with care, having the right kind of guidance in that, even if you don't get it yourself. So I would really advise people to, look at their portfolio in that manner. It doesn't matter if you're 60 or 55 or 60 or 65, whatever it is, right? Coming back to one other factor, you mentioned that, periodically we need to keep seeing like what's the right mix and all that. Now, sometimes when I hear of that, I feel that it is overwhelming, right? Today, I might still be in a position to do. But as you grow older, if you're 65, 70, 75, do we have the mental faculties to keep looking at, these numbers in detail, etc.?
Yeah.
So is there also a theory or a philosophy that is there a way to simplify things and yet manage without having to kind of look at it all the time?
Absolutely. No, I think industry across the globe, in the US, India, everywhere, it tends to sort of complicate things through products and sort of more sort of such innovation doesn't really help you. The single biggest factor for wealth creation is, as you rightfully said, how much of your portfolio is exposed to equity. Single biggest factor. So if we can reduce the decisions that one need to make over a period of time, I think that automatically introduces the simplicity, right? So a few decisions that all we need to make. Number one, what the goals are. Number two, can I create a portfolio to help achieve those goals? Number three, automate that process. And once that's done, I think just relax. And every year, all you do a review of is not the product, not the returns, but am I on track to meet my goals?
Correct.
As long as we can just do that review and then take actions, we can simplify the whole thing.
Absolutely. And also, the way I see it today is that if our main source of income, which let's say over the years was salary or profits of a business which we were running, if that is slowing down or stop because you are at a point where maybe you have retired from that main work, and now you have this corpus, which is what's going to support you for the rest of your life. The way I see it is that it's important that the corpus remains the same or grows.
Correct.
Even while we use money from there to manage our day-to-day life. Now, if that's the case, now I have heard cases where somebody says that, I have 25 CR corpus. But when you get into the detail, maybe he has got 2 real estate properties, some land somewhere which is worth 5 crores and some flat in some place which is actually doing nothing in the sense of growth. So there's no compounding hitting that. And you live in the hope that, when I want, I will get a huge growth on that, which may or may not happen. Secondly, it's illiquid. Like the day you decide that, suddenly I have a medical emergency and I need the money. Do you think there's going to be a ready taker for that plot of land in some place? Now, how does one deal with these kinds of things? Because, this is a fallacy that I feel a lot of times people have.
Spot on, and especially the love for real estate is a lot over here. So you're absolutely right. We've also seen investors with such huge portfolios, at least in theory. But there is a term for that. You're asset rich, but cash poor.
Exactly.
Right? And in real estate portfolio, we've have investors got 5 properties. Children are abroad. Children are telling them that we want nothing to do with those properties. We're not interested. And the parents are left with dealing with all this mess. Right. So I think this is an important realization that people need to be aware of it. And, when someone thinks about retirement, there are 4 L's of retirement that I talk about. When I talk to people about retirement planning, what are those 4 L's, right? If your retirement planning can take care of these 4 L's, you're sorted. So first L is longevity, right? Whatever essential expense that you have on a monthly basis, assuming that, let's say, you're going to live till 90, 100, can you set aside that expense, or can you budget for that expense over that longevity? That's called longevity. First L. Second L is lifestyle. How are you going to fund your lifestyle? Right? This is the kind of life you want to live. It needs to be funded. So that's the second L. Third L is legacy. What you were talking about, there are Indian parents especially who want to live their legacy to the next generation. Right? Need to be planned for that. And fourth one is liquidity. Where if there is some untoward instance or health related issue that comes up, do you have enough money to take care of those things? You have to look at your entire portfolio in terms of real estate, in terms of FDs and everything in the context of these four L's.
Absolutely.
And once you start connecting assets to these liabilities, these are four L's are essentially liabilities,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
How are you going to fund those liabilities? Once you start connecting your assets, you will get the clarity that real estate, for example, is not going to take care of your liquidity.
Right.
It's not going to take care of your lifestyle, other than the home that you're living in.
Right. Exactly.
So I think that planning and clarity sort of hopefully will change people's mind.
So that was actually a tremendous insight that Girish just provided, the 4L framework. I think that's something which we need to internalize and think for ourselves. And after you analyze for your own self, if you feel that the kind of money that you have may not support the lifestyle that you have today, is there a means to increase your money or invest it better? Or otherwise, the only choice is to relook at your lifestyle. And also the liquidity factor is big one. Like we talked about earlier, if your money is blocked into real estate or something which is illiquid, and you had a sudden need for money, how are you going to factor for that, right? So all of these are very, very important things to think about. But so thanks for that framework, Girish. Coming back to this whole guilt of legacy. Now, when I said not guilt, the legacy part, in Indian context, often actually there is a guilt connected to it that I should leave certain amount of money or some wealth for my kids.
Yeah.
Now, the way I see it is that, you work hard all your life. You're frugal because you want to save up so that you have a good retirement. And you reach the point of retirement, and now you're hit with two things.
Yeah.
One is the anxiety of the uncertainty. And the second is whole feeling that I must leave behind something for my kids. So you again live frugally in retirement as well. So yaar, zindagi jiyenge kab? When do you actually live for yourself? So how do you factor this guilt, and do you need to have the guilt, or you want to, how do you balance that? Because it's a very difficult thing. Finally you need to live for yourself. Right? You've done the hard work of assimilating your wealth.
Yeah. No, I think you sort of hit upon the crux of financial planning, if you will. That there are two individuals, right? One is your present self and the other one is your future self.
Exactly.
In this case, future self can be your family, your children, and so on. And so how do you strike a balance is where financial planning actually comes in the picture. That is the crux of financial planning. It's if you've lived your entire life frugally, even if you have money, sudden change in that mindset is not easy. Right? You've lived your life frugally, doing certain things. You can't suddenly now change those habits over time.
Right, exactly.
So the key is to actually, you may live frugally rest of your life. Are you happy with what you have? Are you happy with the lifestyle that you're living? That's the most important question.
Right.
If you're happy with the lifestyle you're living, then more power to you. You live frugally because you're happy, and then leave whatever you want.
Right.
The question is, if you're not happy, if you're guilty, then get clarity and awareness.
Right.
What is it that you would like to do if, let's say, there were no constraints?
Right.
That is the question that everyone should be asking.
Yeah.
If, for example, I assume that don't worry about your children, they're all sorted, there will be enough money given to them. In that case, what would you like to do with your money? How would you like to live differently?
Right.
I think if the thinking starts, that's when then people come to the realization that, hey, these are some of the things that are important to me. Once you have that realization, then you can put the plan in place.
Right.
And even including legacy. As I said, the 4 L's of retirement. Legacy is one of the most important things.
Yes.
So if you can plan that, there is a way that you can plan and still sort of have a guilt-free life.
So when you say there's a way, do you have frameworks of some kind? Like supposing today, I have a certain situation of money and all that I have reached. How do I know if it's enough? Are there any ballpark ways to do it? Like if my current lifestyle is so many rupees a year or so many, is there a way to figure? Because I've seen people who have been in, say, a corporate job or in some other kind of employment. And let's say, for example, I'm just giving a ballpark that at the time of retirement, they were earning 25 lakhs per annum, which is not a lot in today's day, but let's say they were there. And earlier they were getting even lesser. But now they suddenly see that they have a balance of 5 crores, a number that they have not seen as a full number ever. I think I'm set because you think that that's a huge number.
Yeah.
But in reality, it might not be enough, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's a big number from where they came from, but it may not be enough. So, how do you really get a sense that what is enough? Is there a way? Is there a framework?
Certainly. I think the 4 L's that I talked about in Happiness Factory has a process through which we can actually try to get an answer to some of these questions. And the process that we have around retirement, that actually helps you see what your sort of spend pattern will be in the future, given where you are, given the assets that you have. Our system and our financial coach can pull all of that together and actually create that picture for you. As to look, this is what it will look like. So there is a way of.
But so that, of course, there's a deeper analysis. But it's like sometimes people say X multiple of your expense or something. Is there something like that?
People do say that there is a 25 multiple, that if your last year's annual income, if you multiply that by 25, or sometimes another way of thinking about it is that this guy, William Benjamin, he came up with a rule of 4%, right? You can dip into your assets 4% every year and then keep pace with inflation.
Right.
Rather than approaching that and rather than using these thumb rules, that don't really look at people's individual specific situations. I would say you start from scratch.
Right.
Think about the lifestyle that you have.
Right.
But just to give you a ballpark, you're absolutely right. 5 crore, if a person has sort of a monthly need of 1 lakh, 1.5 lakh, is not going to be enough.
Exactly.
So we're looking at about close to 8 crores plus health corpus separately.
Exactly.
So that's sort of very high level ballpark.
Absolutely. So the health corpus is an important one to factor. Today, healthcare costs are only going up. And sometimes you feel that, I have a 5 lakh medical insurance policy or a 10 lakh. I mean, the way the healthcare costs are spiraling up, you have some big surgery or something, it can easily cost much more than that. And then, at that kind of point of time, you don't want to let money come in the way of saving lives, right? Whether it's for yourself or your loved ones somewhere close by. So generally speaking, the idea is that what's the maximum health insurance that you can buy? And beyond that, keep a separate health corpus, which is another amount of money, like a goal, which is kept aside so that you are reasonably sorted on the health front, right?
Certainly. Absolutely.
Right. So going beyond that, once you do that planning for yourself, as you also mentioned that things keep changing, what is the frequency and what is the kind of periodic reviews you think are required? Factoring that as we grow older, we may not be as sharp in terms of analyzing deep, complex, spreadsheets or something like that.
Correct. No, you're right. And I think that deep analysis is not even necessary if you structure your portfolio a certain way, wherein you've created something called a ladder for yourself for the short term, and then your rest of your portfolio is focused on sort of longevity and growth. Once you create that structure and once you have it in place, once a year review is good enough with your financial advisor. The caveat to that is that if certain situation in your life comes or certain parameters based on which this plan was made, they change, then of course it's prudent to reach out to the advisor.
Right.
And once you put that in place, once you automate it, I think you don't really need to oversee it on a day-to-day basis. It does its own job.
Because I in fact, especially at this age, I've seen enough people who, as soon as some change happens, like maybe the interest rate changes or market kind of comes down, crashing or something like that, they again keep going back to their spreadsheet and see where are they now, how much portfolio has gone up or down. You don't think that's necessary, right?
No, it's not necessary. And there are certain variables that you can't control. The interest rates, market returns and all, it's beyond anyone's control, right?
Right.
So the key is to create a portfolio in a way that even if, let's say, the market does whatever it does, you still have that sort of ladder for 5 years or 6 years, which gives you the buffer for the market to go down and come up again, if you will.
Right.
So you focus on what you can control, and then create a portfolio, sort of take care of it.
Another aspect I want to talk about is that, a lot of times in families, one of the spouse, it could be the husband, it could be the wife, has taken a lead in the financial planning, and has figured exactly what that portfolio should be and where all they are invested. And sometimes one also is spread out a lot into like many different types of investing. Somebody has put money in directly in stocks, and then PMS and AIF and whatnot. And the other spouse is not that familiar because he or she has not been involved. And given that life is so that way fragile, I mean, something could happen any day.
Absolutely.
And you've got to spread out portfolio. You've got money all over the place, and the other person doesn't even know as much. So, in spite of having wealth, that there's a huge anxiety at that point if one partner passes away or something like that. What's your advice on something like this? And how should families plan, especially at this age, where for themselves around all these?
So you're spot on. This is one of the biggest problems that we have, that one person has taken the lead and the other person is completely in the dark and is left helter-skelter when the unfortunately the person isn't there. So number one, obviously, simplification, right? Mm-hmm. People think that if I have, for example, 50 different funds, mutual funds in this case, or 50 other products, I am better off. That's really not the case, right? Some people think that I need to go to multiple advisors to get diversification. That's not how it works. Simplify your life as much as possible. Document some of the things that you can. And what we do at Happiness Factory, Sanjay, is that at every review, we encourage the spouse to actually join. Right from the time when we are onboarding a new investor, we insist on the spouse being present in that conversation. From that point, every review, the spouse, we insist on that spouse being there. Documentation, planning. We have another sort of work stream where we help people document their life. My life happily documented. So all of those things are absolutely critical. Otherwise, the anxiety is always going to be there. As you said, life is fragile and uncertain.
Yes.
You never know.
So this is an amazing thing that Happiness Factory has, and I think it's something which all of us need to appreciate, that with the fragility of life, if there's one person who is handling everything, other person is not much aware, it can cause a big problem, and not just in the event of death. There's disability, right? So how does actually there's a lot of reading that I do nowadays around this subject, that if somebody's got into a coma or some such situation where they cannot sign papers and so they're still alive. Is that something which are there some best practices around that?
I mean, typically what we suggest is that then have joint accounts, right? Have nominees. In some situations, create the power of attorney, create your will, do estate planning. So some of these things, when you start putting in place, can actually take care of some of these situations.
So earlier when, Girish mentioned about simplifying and not having like 50 funds, etc. I mean, I have come to that conclusion for myself over time, and typical people, I mean, we've gone through different experimentation and, burnt fingers and all that, and finally came to a conclusion. I realized that there are people who will keep telling you that, let me analyze your mutual fund portfolio and see if you are in the right fund, and should I change? I mean, what's the answer? The answer is that sell this and put it into this, and you'll be ending up constantly churning your portfolio for no reason. Every time you do that, you're going to have capital gains and you're going to pay tax and all that. And at the end of the day, for what? Right? Because that new fund is good today. In the next 6 months review, some other fund will come up. So personally, while Girish is the expert on this discussion today, I'll share my viewpoint, right? So first of all, when I think of my money, my investments, my first goal is that it needs to beat inflation. So it's a very low benchmark that, as long as it beats inflation, at least I'm ahead of the game. After that, if it gets me into a certain zone, let's say if I say that if it's a mutual fund and it gives me an annualized return of say between 12 to 15%, I'm okay. Over a long run, that compounding works really well.
Yeah.
If anything does better, if the markets do well, if the fund is well managed, maybe it will give me 20%. I'm happier, right? So now if something is giving me 14%, something else is available at 15% gain, it has zero value for me to keep churning the portfolio and keep jumping around, right? So I think those are useful.
That's so nicely said, Sanjay, that you were spot on again, that 15% return, there are multiple aspects of it. So right now, let's say I'm getting 13%, there is a fund 15%. Number one, no one really knows what the market is going to do, what the fund is going to do. If someone's telling you that this fund is going to give you, then you should run away from that person. Number one. Number two, that incremental 2%, what is it that's going to do to my life and my happiness? If that question
if at all you get that increment.
If at all you get that increment.
Exactly. No guarantee for that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Super. So I think we've really had a really good discussion around the very important subject of money. We covered a lot of ground. Any sort of summary thoughts for you, for our viewers in terms of best practices, or what is it that they can think about doing tomorrow?
I think first thing is that be clear about the risks that you face, right? When we're talking about longevity, what are the risks that are there? And number one, the inflation is a big risk. We have to take care of it. So if I broadly think about risk associated with money, there are three broad buckets. And I think I feel like this is one of the most important things. There is a risk of losing your money. We call it bucket one, capital loss. There is a risk of volatility, right? When people say market is risky, they're referring to volatility. And third risk is inflation. It's very important for you to distinguish between these three things. When people say, one of your friends who you talked about, that he had some bad experience about equity, I may lose my money in the equity market. They're typically referring to the risk of volatility, not capital loss, right? So get that clarity first of all through discussions. Make sure that inflation is an equally important risk. Right. It's just hidden. That's number one. And number two is that first figure out the lifestyle that you want to live. Even now, even if you're 40, 50, 60, wherever you are, figure out what you want your money to do for you.
Correct.
Once that's done, I think everything just follows through. Absolutely. So those are the only two things.
Absolutely. So amazing. I think those were really great, closing words. And, I'm reminded of the quote from Charlie Munger, long-time Berkshire Hathaway partner and of Warren Buffett. And he said that I want to know the place where I will die, so I never go there. I mean, it's like that. That's basically the idea of recognizing risk and staying away from it, right? And that's exactly what Girish mentioned. And I think capital preservation at this age becomes very important. Of course, as Girish mentioned at the outset, not at the level of extremity that you kind of stay completely away from equity. Is a fine balance to get, but definitely protecting the downside is a very important aspect of this, and which is why at this stage especially, one should be wary of getting into experimental areas of bitcoins and whatever else, the new fancy thing which keep coming, because let me share one more example for myself. I have been doing some amount of angel investing. Okay, and people know angel investing is about putting some money into startups at an early stage, and I've been doing that for last several years. I came to a conclusion that angel investing is about at least a window of 7 to 10 years of time. Nothing is going to happen anytime sooner. I have a certain budget which I had allocated for that, so I don't increase my exposure. First of all, it's only in that much money that I've identified. But even after that, I realized that if it's a 7 to 10 year cycle, and today I'm 62 now, I don't do any more angel investing. But if I do a new investment today, and if I have to think about 10 years from now that it may get somewhere, by the time I'm 72, what's the point? I mean, what am I going to do with that money and where am I going to keep track? So, what I've done in my 50s, and which may play out, whether it works out, doesn't work out, whatever it plays out in the next few years, I'm happy with that. So, in much the same way, identifying what are the avenues, what are the channels which you're investing in, which of them, what kind of downside is there, how do you find the right portfolio at this point is a very important decision. And we've had some amazing thoughts and guidance that we've got from Girish on this. So thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure to talk to you. And I'm sure that all the viewers are going to find it very, very beneficial.
Great. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Sanjay. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.